since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources.
Fleet of them. What's on the ASA? My gosh. That's not an LNS though, is it? It's not. It is an LNS, man. Well, if there's another thing.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Unidentified anomalous podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the Unidentified Anomalous podcast. I'm Digby Furno, and joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host, Tom Cortex Zero. Tom, how are you this week?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got my new phone. Really
nice.
Been enjoying the. It's got the S Pen, so I've been doing a little bit more artwork.
You've got a new phone, and I have too, because I stole my wife's new iPhone 15.
You jerk!
I know. Well, it's just like she kept coming to me and going, I don't know how. Well, what do I do with this camera? And how do I? I was like, well, if you don't know how to use it, just give it to me. So I gave her my old iPhone, and now I've got hers.
Yo, Grand Theft phone. I love it.
Absolutely.
I absolutely
That's
love
how I
it.
roll.
It is really cold here right now. Not as cold as it is in some other areas of the country. It's very windy outside right now, so it's a good day to be in my home studio here with you doing the podcast. This is a really, really fun, different episode that we're doing today that I'm so excited for with
Me too.
one of my absolute favorite people in the fucking world. Like straight up, this guy is my brother from another mother right here, man. Like, I would not have the presence that I have on X if it weren't for him. Truthfully. Like this, he's
literally dancing in the green room right now. I can see him. So
yeah, that's right. Like, and hello everybody in the chat. What's up, Mello, Heather, Sandy, Paul, Zio, Steven. Like, yeah, man. Like, I owe a major debt of gratitude. Obviously, doing the spaces every week. You guys know him very, very well. Of course, we'll be introducing him in just a moment. But really, really thankful to have him on the show with us again today. But Digby, how was your week, sir?
It's great. It's been really good. We're going to rush through this bit because we've got Astral waiting. But yeah, we went to Marrakesh this week, which was brilliant. The sun was gloriously
Beautiful.
hot. 30 degrees. We went here. We went to the Medina and bought some spices and bought all sorts of things.
Did you go to that exact location behind you?
Yeah, it didn't look exactly like that the day we went, but yeah, it did. We did, yeah. And it's lovely. It's great. It's like walking through
beautiful.
some.
I looked it up on Google
from an Indiana Jones movie. It's brilliant.
It's crazy. It's like an adventure waiting to happen, right? Like it just looks like it. And I saw like a broad view of Marrakesh from like a distance, and it's like being on another planet. It's like Tatooine.
It is.
Crazy.
There's people with monkeys on the shoulder in the square, and there's snake charmers with cobras and everything. Man, we love this country. We absolutely love this country, and
you're going to stay.
I think we are. Yes, I think we are going to stay, certainly for an extended period of time. But I will say this is that this week I've been tired, I've been grumpy, I've been emotional, and I think when you are surrounded by things that are so unfamiliar, I think it's important to realize that takes a massive toll on your subconscious mind, because it's trying to find patterns from your normal life that it just can't find there anymore. So literally, I put a post out on Twitter the other day, or X, saying today's the first day that I've actually felt normal again. Because it takes time, and it's because it's so different, you know. But look, we have one hell of a show for everybody today. So there's going to be a section in the show later on. We are going to put a link into the comments in a bit, and that link, if you click it, or well, it's in YouTube, so you'll probably have to highlight it, copy and paste it into your browser. But if you do that, you will get put in the waiting room, in the green room for the show, and you can join in live via video and audio with your submissions for today's remote viewing task. So if you are planning on doing that and you'd like to get involved in that, maybe give us a little thumbs up in the comments now so we know how many people are looking to do that, and we'll get that done later on. So we'll get all these people in ready while we're doing the news segment of the show, which we'll be doing slightly later on. I've done a bit of homework this week. I've gone video editing mad. So without further ado, we will now start our remote viewing space. Tyler, welcome to Remote Viewing Live with you.
Yo, what? That was sick intro, dude.
You like that? It's my new laptop. I'm getting all fancy.
Yeah, man. Now that you can stretch your editing muscles, bro, like, man, it's like I feel like I don't even have to say hi to you because I talk to you so damn often. You know what I mean? It's just like I feel like we're just coming back into something. Thanks for being here with us, though, man. Because I really love the RV spaces that we do every week. That's obviously your baby. It's 69 straight now, right? Is that what we're up to? We're going on 70.
Yeah, the number on the envelope now represents the number of weeks in a row, basically, that I've been doing it. So over a year now, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. I keep like stretching the goal out. So maybe right now my goal is 100. So I don't want to go too far other than that. But first it was a year, just like a year of doing the remote viewing spaces in a row. And it's just been so cool because not only people participating, but the discussions that we have during, I think, can really help people be educated and learn how to remote view and some of the tactics. It's been cool.
A lot of fun. Obviously, because of Digby's time zone, he's not usually in those spaces, but he has gotten a chance to see some of those, some of the submissions. And we do have some submissions today already that are on X on the post. I had a few real good ones. Zio in the chat, my IRL friend, has had some absolutely fantastic submissions. Astral, do you feel that now that you've done this for as long as you have, that you have a nice chunk of data to look at and say, hey, there's absolutely something going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I do, and that's, to me, the next step that I'm working on is like using AI or some form of fashion to take these submissions and have a judging system where people could actually get statistics and comparison of how they're doing. And they're like, I'm a big baseball. I grew up on baseball, so I'm like batting average minded, and so like if you say you take some of the methods of testing and you compare it to chance, then you can see your sort of ability if you're having success or not. Because I think people a lot of the times put like all or nothing into one thing. Like today, if they're off and it's their first time trying, they're like, oh man, like this isn't for me. But like that's not what it's about. It's like to me, give it the due process of like 10 times and see how your ability is, because I think over time you're able to see that like this is a natural ability that we have, just like musicianship, almost like learning the piano. I think if you work with it and pay attention to it, you can improve the skill.
That's a great comparison.
I mean, I think now's probably a good time. Tom, why don't you hold up the envelope and we'll explain to everybody what's going to go on. So, Tom here has an envelope, and inside this envelope is a drawing. And anybody that's watching live or watching back, you can do it watching back as well, but it's going to be more fun doing it live. Your job is to think hard. I don't know. How does it work, Astral? How does it work? You tell us in a minute, but think about what is in there and try and project that image that you see inside that envelope onto a piece of paper and draw what you see in your mind's eye, I guess.
Or you can even you know, write down descriptive words. Like I do a combination of sketches and thoughts, like descriptions, you know, adjectives and such. That's usually how I go about it. But
so have a think about what you can see inside that envelope, and we are going to get as many people that want to be involved to come on live. Please, some of you do, absolutely. We'd love to have you live on the show, even if it's only for 5-10 seconds, just to show us what you've got. Before we go into the news segment later on, we'll put a link in the StreamYard in the YouTube section here. We'll put a link there in the chat. So just copy and paste that link, shove it in your browser. It'll connect. It works on phone, tablet, PC, whatever. Your camera will appear on the screen, and your audio will have a little chat, and you can show us your submission.
And also, I guess too, for those that are uncomfortable with being on camera, or they prefer not to do it that way, I'll post the link to our post that does have the target, and if you prefer to just submit it through like a comment, if that's, you know, a little bit, if you prefer your privacy like that, you can do that as well, because we want to get everybody involved as much as possible.
You do that. Great idea, Tom. So what we're going to do now, I've put together a short 7-minute documentary that just explains a bit of the history about remote viewing. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, this is a good chance to catch up. We're going to play that now, and then afterwards we'll have more of a chat with Astral, and we'll go from there. It's coming.
In the clandestine corridors of the Cold War, an extraordinary and groundbreaking endeavor unfolded: the exploration of remote viewing, a revolutionary approach to intelligence gathering through psychic means. The inception of remote viewing traces back to the late 1960s. In a series of pioneering experiments, researchers at the American Society for Psychical Research in New York uncovered the untapped potential of the human mind. Among them was Ingo Swann, a visionary artist who became a linchpin in the evolution of psychic research. By 1972, a groundbreaking chapter began at Stanford Research Institute, led by physicists Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ. Their quest to understand the enigmatic capabilities of the mind was supported by none other than the CIA. Among those tested was Uri Geller, whose extraordinary abilities captivated the nation.
If you have just joined us, we are talking with Uri Geller, who claims and has performed some very astounding feats. We have a variety of objects sitting here. We have also, as per your request earlier this afternoon, and if you want to try that or whenever you feel like it, one of our staff members did some drawings which have been sealed in an envelope, and I'd like you to take your own pace when you feel like you want to try anything. Right. Do you want to try that particular experiment first?
Why not? The military soon recognized the invaluable potential of remote viewing. Projects like Grill Flame and Stargate were not mere flights of fancy, but strategic initiatives to utilize psychic prowess in national security. Joseph McGonigal, among others, demonstrated the tangible results of remote viewing, applying this unique skill in critical missions, from locating hostages to uncovering secretive military bases. Remote viewing's potential was strikingly evident in the remarkable discovery of a downed Soviet plane in Zaire. The accurate coordinates provided by a remote viewer led to a significant intelligence victory. This was just one of many instances where remote viewing proved its worth beyond conventional espionage tactics.
One time we had a small plane go down somewhere in Africa, and we were not able to find it by surveillance. So the director of the CIA heard about a woman in California that was a medium or something. I don't know the title for it. And she gave him the latitude and longitude of the plane's whereabouts. We located the plane where she said it was.
The continued investment in remote viewing was driven by a strategic imperative to match and surpass Soviet psychic research capabilities. This era was marked not only by geopolitical rivalry, but also by a race to unlock and harness the extraordinary capabilities of the human mind. The end of the Cold War saw a shift in the narrative around remote viewing. Despite a 1995 CIA report casting doubt on its efficacy, the legacy of remote viewing as a potent tool in intelligence gathering remains undeniable. Today, remote viewing continues to inspire, with former government psychics sharing their knowledge and skills, a testament to its enduring impact and potential. Remote viewing stands as a testament to human potential, a fascinating if controversial chapter in espionage history. Its exploration during the Cold War era speaks volumes about the limitless possibilities of the human mind. As we delve deeper into the enigmatic world of remote viewing, we encounter claims that extend beyond earthly boundaries. Among the most astonishing of these are assertions that remote viewers, under the auspices of the CIA's Project Stargate, discovered an alien base hidden deep within Mount Hayes, Alaska. These remote viewers described intricate underground command centers and facilities interlinked like a vast spider web. The implications of such discoveries challenge our traditional beliefs about NHI and their activities on Earth. Joe, one of the viewers, provided a mind-boggling description of the alien base's technology, far beyond human comprehension. Such accounts raise profound questions about the extent and nature of NHI involvement in our planet's affairs. Moreover, theories suggest that these beings are deeply invested in the Earth, intervening only to prevent harm to the planet which they purportedly rely on for resources. Adding to the mystery, Project 8200 allegedly confirms the existence of 4 subterranean sites, with several remote viewers claiming to have sensed the presence of NHI. While these accounts reside on the fringes of mainstream research and remain unverified, they open the door to a universe of possibilities. Remote viewing, a tool once confined to the realms of espionage and military intelligence, may have unveiled secrets far beyond our current understanding.
There we go.
Nice job with that, Digby. Nice
That was
job with that,
amazing.
man.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Ah,
Thank you.
No, seriously, that was very. The whole time I was like, "Damn, this is really good, man." This is really good. It's like,
Appreciate that.
thanks very much, and thank you for Tom for doing the voiceover. So
I enjoy that,
wonderfully
man.
as
I
well.
really enjoy doing it. People tell me that I have the voice for it. I don't hear it myself, so I just do it. But I enjoy it. I like, you know what I mean? I don't know. There's something about it. Like I feel like I would like to do voiceover work for like a cartoon or something one day in my life. I can do like tons of impressions and stuff. I can do Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Like, you know what I mean? I can do a bunch of different stuff.
See, all I can do is Chewbacca.
That's pretty good.
Anyway.
I'm red. That's it.
He's
Red Tom's
We got
here.
Red Tom.
Transformed.
Right, let's bring it back. So, Astral, Tyler, tell me, why is it that you got into remote viewing? What drew you into it in the first place?
Well, I think what drew me into the subject, even before UFOs, was a precognitive dream that I had. So I had a dream when I was in college of myself. I got robbed. And so in the dream, I come back from where I am in my apartment, and I see that I'm, my apartment has been broken into, and I go through this. I had been doing a lot of music production and music stuff. So the most important thing to me was like my hard drive, my music equipment, my keyboard, my drum machine, like all the stuff that's basically behind me. And 3 days later, I had that exact experience take place after having a dream about it. And so I started paying more attention to this stuff, just like because I was so interested in it. And once I started paying more attention to like remote viewing, parapsychology, psychic phenomenon, I wanted to test it myself. I consider myself much more of a Russell Targ, Hal Puthoff, in that like I would love to experience this and be like a phenomenal remote viewer, but I don't know, I just am wired to be much more interested in the testing of it and like the gathering of the data. And I don't consider myself, I call myself Astral. I've had out of body experiences, but I don't consider myself like a good remote viewer or somebody that's like have this like super ability. I'm very interested in like collecting data and formulating ways to like show that this is actually happening. So that's kind of where my background comes from. It's just the some dreams that I've had, and then I tested in the very first remote viewing test that I did. It was a video in which I was in a room and I was trying to remote view a video that was playing on loop. That was like a 20-second video in the next room. And so I described, with a recorder, like what I was having. This was like actually like a part of a study. And so I went through the process and like actually saw for myself, like then you go into the next room and you see the video for itself. And so I was seeing that it was close, and I was actually kind of spot on. And so I think like remote viewing is a way for like you to see yourself that this is possible and like you have this ability.
Yeah, nice. Today's an interesting one for you because normally you host the space. This week we're hosting the space.
Yeah.
We know what the image is. You don't. So have you put a prediction together? You don't need to show us right now, but have you drawn your submission?
Oh yeah, I love and that's what I was going to say is like for the, usually I'm the one that's testing it, and I love being able to just try it, just to like work with my ability or see different ways that people are doing it. So I 100%, I got my submission here. It's logged up. I did it about 15 minutes before the stream to kind of just get in my mindset. I just took about 10 minutes, relax myself. And, I think one thing that's cool to see from the spaces that I do is that everybody has their sort of method. Like there's no one way to do this, like you don't like do this thing of like, you do this exact thing and like, that's how you get the best thing. And from the remote viewing program, like some people would listen to like Led Zeppelin before they do their remote viewing, or some people would get into a deep meditative state. And I think it's one way, to see that like people that are trying it out, they're working through that. They're seeing their best method to gather that information, whether it's, listening to binaural beats or, like getting into like a groove or just like getting in a very relaxed state. Like that to me is cool to see when people can try this.
So if there's people are watching at the moment that want to get into remote viewing, and what's the best way for them to go about it? Where can they get the best information? What are the best practices?
I think for me, there's some people that are out there right now, Paul Smith, Joe McMoneagle, people who were actually involved in the remote viewing program, the ones
Yeah.
that were involved, and then now are sort of in sort of like an educational role where they're trying to educate people on how to remote view or different methods that they've used. So I think like just getting into some of the literature, and there's people like Daz Smith comes to mind.
Right.
Younger remote viewers who not necessarily were involved in the Stargate program. I think that adds to people's credibility, but it's not like a stop there. That there are groups out there are people that are involved in remote viewing, and even that come by the spaces that are successful. And that have like good advice for people. Like there was somebody like I think we all know Alien Protocol or Buddy.
I knew you were going to say Buddy.
Yeah, so somebody who's come by the space and is open about psychic phenomenon, their involvement in it, but is willing to like give people advice, but also willing to try it. A lot of the times people talking about this in a space and like their abilities. I'm this psychic, or a lot of this stuff started to essentially call out psychics to like people that are like, oh, I'm able to do this, I'm able to do that. Well, come by the remote viewing space, see, like showcase that, like I want to I want to be able to set a platform where people can showcase their ability. It's not necessarily, you're not put on the, every time you don't have to get it spot on, but to me, if there's a science looking to be established, it would be great to have people that are very intuitive and are good at this to contribute to that science of data collection.
I mean, it's it's not even a fringe subject, is it? I mean, the CIA have had, as you saw in the little documentary there, they took this really seriously during the Cold War, and so did the Russians. So that there really is something behind this, and there's evidence to prove it as well.
There's too much evidence, honestly. Like when
Mhm.
I started off in looking at psychic phenomenon and parapsychology, and what you find is that there have been millions and millions of trials of simple testing. So like Zener cards, right? Like psychic cards that you would test, or dice, like guessing the dice. And what it
Mhm.
shows is that over hundreds of thousands of trials, that this skill or innate ability is present. It's like natural. The sixth sense is natural, and that the more that we actually test it through these means, the more that we'll find that like this ability is taking place. And so there's extrasensory perception is precognition, telepathy, and clairvoyance, which clairvoyance is basically remote viewing. All those to me have enough tests that have been done and experiments that have been done to establish that that phenomenon is taking place. So there have been millions and millions of trials, and through that you can see that like the spike of the curve of what's needed to show that is taking place has already been established. And I think when people talk about the woo, they're not paying attention to the parapsychology, which is the 50-60 years of research that has been done to establish that. So UFO researchers always talk about like, oh, we don't need to get into the woo. To me, there's been more research that has been done to psychic phenomenon to establish that that's taking place. And now the UFO field is sort of like trying to do that in a sense.
I think that's a fair point. And if we could get them both on like the same level playing field, that would be really great. And Astral, through your spaces, I always wanted to get into remote viewing, not to, walk around and be like, hey, I got powers. It was nothing like that. It's like I wanted to actually put my mind to the test. I wanted to collect data personally and see what I could come up with, and to have some fun with it too, like maybe see places that I couldn't normally visit, like out in the solar system and such. And it's amazing some of the results that I've gotten that I can attest to, with actual witness testimony to show that made these submissions before the target was revealed, because everything is time stamped. You can see when you post the target that my submissions came in prior to that. I had Zio in Discord with me when we have both had incredible submissions. You saw he had 2 weeks where he 99.9% nailed the target. I actually have my submission right here from your last space, which what it was like almost looked like a zoom in on like a like a manhole cover or something. It was rusted and there were like hexagonal openings in it. You guys can see that I have descriptive words here too. So like I didn't just do drawings, I also wrote words. And I have rocks, tunnel, earthy, stone, concrete, something solid and rigid. And what's interesting is that if you take these two shapes and you line them up over one another, they make those openings that were in that grate that we saw. So that's what I've noticed about remote viewing too, is that I think a lot of people go with the expectation of absolutely nailing the object. But what I find through my own submissions is that it gets split up into different pieces. And not only that, but sometimes there's a bleed through. Like this V right here has absolutely nothing to do with the target, but I found this on G's submission, a friend of ours that comes into the spaces all the time. I saw this exact shape, not colored in, but like in the same spot on the image too. Like it was the left-hand side of the paper. Mine's on the left-hand side of the paper. So there's like a bleed through from other people's submissions. Do you feel that those types of things happen because everybody's kind of linked up to the same like consciousness field, or do you think it's something else?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, maybe. But so one of the things that's the toughest for when I do a submission is just that bleed through. So it's getting people to send in their submission, but not look at the other submissions, because a lot of the times when somebody sends in their submission, if they look through the other before the target reveal, there could be a stronger emotional connection to what they just submitted to what somebody else did. So say you submitted like a triangle, and then you scroll through the submissions just kind of like nonchalantly checking, and then all of a sudden somebody else does the exact same triangle. Already that's sort of like like affected the target reveal, because you have been affected by another submission that you've emotionally connected to. So I think a lot of the times it's tough, and it's happened the last week, right, with that windmill. Like
Yes.
everybody got
Yes.
the windmills. So
Yes.
I think it's definitely possible for that influence to take place, because people then go into the comments and search around just curiously. And I don't blame people, but it's like, I don't want to go through and be like, don't look at the other submissions. But at the same time, if you're trying to do it properly, like you only want to focus on your submission and the target, and not so much on like what other people are doing.
And not only that, but there is evidence through the research of the way that quantum mechanics works and time. It's been suggested that in some weird way in the quantum, that future events can actually have an effect on past events. Again, it's a lot to wrap your head around, because it's like, well, wait a second, one comes before the other. But look into it. It exists. So if that's the case, if I do a submission, I concentrate on the target, I do my drawings, but then 3 hours later, I go and I scroll through the submissions. We might get into a situation where the very act of me going through those may have had some odd effect on when I was actually doing my submission. And as a result, I may have affected my target submission. And because I was actually getting information from an act that I would eventually do. I know it's like, it's such a conundrum. It's so weird to like describe that, but it's like, if you go and start scrolling through those submissions, if the future can affect the past in some weird way in the quantum, that's where that information may have come from. And I'm suspicious of that, because the week that I did it, and then you were like, oh, next time, Tom, don't look through the submissions until they're revealed. Even though I did my submission and then looked through the submissions, that information may have traveled through time in like a really weird way that we don't understand. And that's where I could have gotten that data from.
Yeah.
Like,
and I
bonkers.
suppose just connection to a universal consciousness as well. I mean, that has to play a major part in this. Just the innate ability to be able to do it. Surely it's something, as you said earlier, Tyler, it's like learning to play a piano. You can learn to play a piano. Some people will be better at it than others in the end, but everybody can learn to play the piano. So, I'm guessing this is no different. Everybody has the innate ability to do this, to be able to remote view. It's just you need to practice, and some people are going to be better at it than others.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of people talk about the mental process of what you're doing while you're remote viewing. If you're like trying to reach out mentally and like go to Tom's location, right? Or like see
Ocean
like
did?
yeah, like
I was about to say that.
I'm sending my consciousness over to Tom's envelope, and like the funniest remote viewing, I have to say this space one time was when this guy was like, "Okay, Astral, I'm remote viewing you right now. You're wearing a blue shirt," and I'm like, "No, I'm not, but chill, dude. Like, I don't want that happening, But at this time, one of the funny things and interesting things that I think about is like, am I remote viewing the envelope of me mentally traveling there, or in reality am I just remote viewing the video or the picture of when Tom reveals the target and I'm seeing it for the first time, and it's just my computer screen that I'm looking at? And so Joe McMoneagle, one of the remote viewers of the program, basically his message is like, it's all precognitive. It's all like you're seeing it, and then you're getting, and you're tapping into that information. You're not necessarily like traveling to different locations. You're tapping into this information, and you're able to decipher what is noise and what is the actual target.
It's all mind blowing. I mean, I was going to try and do the target this week, but I haven't had a chance.
You're killing me.
I was doing other homework, all the pretty little videos.
I gotta do this again sometime and have you do a submission, because
definitely
if
I
you
will.
do well, man, I'm telling you, there's a feeling associated with it. It's very unique, and you surprise yourself. Like when I did my first submission where I did well, I've had no practice with this, but I've had incidents in my life of like inadvertent, uncontrolled precognition. It's happened. I've had shared dreams with family members, like things like that, but that just happen very randomly. So, and it's weird. Like Astral was saying too, that so everybody has like a different process. And what I think the best advice, I'm in no position to give advice on this at any point, but this came from Paul Smith, and it worked for me, is that when you're doing these submissions, you're going to get things that pop into your head. Left, right, left, right. It's all going to start coming in. And it's learning to differentiate what is noise, what's being generated by your own consciousness randomly, and everything else. The everything else is where you want to focus. And what I've noticed, and I swear to God, everything on this piece of paper right here that relates to the target, when I saw it like in my mind's eye, it came in much more blurry. And then it became sharper, right? The things that I got wrong that had nothing to do with the target, they were just straightforward right there, nice and crisp imagery. But like rocks, the earth, solid, rigid, like all of the shapes, they started off as like a blurry mass of just like random nothing. And I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And then it came into focus in my mind's eye, and that ended up being part of the target. So it's like, to me, that's representative of how that information apparently comes into my mind from an outside source. It literally, it's like wearing a different outfit than my own thoughts, if that makes sense. If and it's really simple too. Like you don't necessarily have to like sit down, get into a meditative state, and close your eyes. I did that submission sitting here at my desk, just staring at the image of the envelope while in Discord, while Zio was rattling off something about an anime I haven't watched yet. Like literally, like there was all types of stuff going on around me, and I'm just staring at the target, and I saw the really blurry stuff and the non-blurry stuff, and I'm like, oh, I've seen this before. Oh, it's still coming in, even though I'm not in like a deep state of concentration, and I still did it, and I surprised myself. That's why I think everybody should go out and try it. I don't know what it is. It's like I know we all have, tendons and ligaments and biceps and such, but we'll just call it the RV muscle. Everybody has an RV muscle.
Well,
It's
I
just a
think
matter of working it out.
it's, I mean, from what I can understand through other research and just generally innate abilities that our mind have that have been suppressed, it's to do with our pineal gland, and there are certain things that we can do to make sure that that is healthy and fit, and it leads you to have these abilities or have them easier. Certain things that we eat and drink in our daily life aren't very good for our pineal gland. In fact, they crystallize our pineal gland. And that's been proven through autopsies and all sorts of things. Things like the amount of fluoride in our toothpaste, in our water, things like this, our diet, the genetically modified stuff. All this stuff doesn't help. If you can strip yourself of that.
Calcifies it, I've heard.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It'll calcify the
yeah,
gland.
that's what I mean. Yeah. It literally does. So, all that sort of stuff helps. I mean, you can ask my wife, she will always say, I know what's going to happen before it happens. But it's one of those things that I don't try to see what happens before it happens. It just comes to me. I have no control over it. Normally it happens when I'm watching a movie or watching TV, and I will know exactly what's going to happen next. And I'll say it to my wife, and she's like, how the hell did you know that? I was like, I did.
That's the thing, though. That's the thing about psychic phenomenon. I posted about this on my Twitter or on my X the other day, is that I think there's a little bit of a misconception that like people are able to turn this on and off, and that a lot of these psychic experiences, psychic phenomenon, they happen spontaneously. Like you don't have control over it. They're based in, it could be as a result of a traumatic experience, in which my case, the 3 precognitive dreams in which I had related to traumatic experiences in which took place 3 days later. And it could be related to experiences that other people are having, right? Like your relatives or some loved one is having an experience, or has a heart attack, and you get this like feeling, or this like something that they're having an issue. And so like I think that the majority of experiences are spontaneous, in that you don't have any control over it taking place. But the more that you pay attention to them, that you'll see that like they happen on a more frequent level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, really quick, I know this is completely off topic. It has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, but it was just something that I noticed and I wanted to point out because he may be watching. As you guys know, I used to be on a different podcast with Tyler on Total Disclosure. He got into a car accident, and I just wanted to wish him well and a speedy recovery. I had left a comment, and he and I haven't spoken in a while. Tyler, if you're out there, I hope you're feeling better, man. Glad you're still here with us. Car accidents are very, very scary, and sometimes it can it can shock the daylights out of you and make you look at life a little differently. I didn't mean to. I know this is like really random, but he just commented at me, so I just wanted to send my positive vibes and a speedy recovery to you, man. And I hope you're doing well. But
yeah, from all of us.
And Astral, like you were saying too, I guess we can kind of like piggyback off of that. It seems like traumatic experiences sometimes, it's interesting how people will have like a precognitive moment about something that's about to happen to them. And I called them like nexus points, where it's like it has I don't know what the science would be behind it, but it's like 9/11 is a really good example. There are just so many stories of people dreaming about it, before it happened, or people getting a feeling. I mean, I felt something the night before. I remember staring at my alarm clock in the other room over here. I remember it clear as day. Like, I swear on everything that I love. I looked at the clock. and like my own inner voice started like dialoguing with me, like uncontrollably. It was almost like my mind was talking to me without me like controlling it. It was like, every day this past school year has felt like Groundhog Day. It's like the same damn routine. Wake up, eat the thing, watch the MTV with all the new music videos coming on, walk outside, close the door, go to the bus stop. There's Megan, there's Karen, get on the bus. Like, it was so mundane, so routine. Tomorrow's going to be different. And then that was the night of September 10th. I was in 6th grade. I felt something. And months before that, I had a really weird dream where like an airplane was sticking out of my house, and all that, which meant nothing to me at the time. And it meant nothing to me even on 9/11, but then months later, it popped back into my head. Like, I saw something that made me remember the dream. Like, so you know how sometimes you'll smell something or touch something, hear something, and it brings back like a memory that you had, or a dream
instantly,
that
like
you
a
had forgotten.
flash.
Yes, and that's what happened. And I
It's like
remembered the
boom.
plane sticking out of my house, and I'm like, oh my God. And then that same dream, I was in a hallway in an office building, looking down a hallway, and I could see, like, the wall wasn't there. It was like it was open to the outside, looking out onto a city. And I walk up to it, and there's fucking paper just flying everywhere. It meant nothing to me at the time. And then this was like, 4 or 5 months after September 11th, and I just sat there. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know how. Dude, I was like stunned into silence. Like, I really freaked myself out with that one. Like, it actually, like, because I was younger, it really bugged me out. And I knew other people personally. There was someone from my town that was actually on one of the planes that died.
I
So,
knew
like,
somebody who was in one of the buildings as well.
right.
And I
Like,
was
how
up.
many
I
stories
was
have
up
you
there.
heard?
Yeah, I was up there a year to the day at the time that it happened as
No
well.
kidding.
I mean, it was a whole year away, but yeah, I was. Yeah,
And I went to
and
ground zero when it was a hole in the ground, and there were still all the papers and everything for people that were missing. It's just weird, man. Like, I'm sure both of you can relate to what I'm saying, though, that like we all have these like moments. God, it seems like everybody that I know has had at least one time in their life where they've had a moment of precognition, even if it's just once. But it's always very specific. It's never like, oh, that could have been really coincidental. Like, no. It's always something much more detailed. Like, Astral, this is the question I have for you in regards to that. Do you feel that like major events that affect people somehow like ripple out into like the consciousness field or into reality in some way, and because it has such a tremendous effect on someone's life and their emotional state, that they feel it before it reaches them?
Yeah, I think it has more to do with somebody's emotional connection and reaction to what's taking place. So with me, I had talked about 3 precognitive dreams, the one where I got robbed, but the third one, and I've always wondered this as to whether or not you're able to change the outcome based off of the information that you get, right? Like, you have a dream and you're like, oh man, like I had this dream, like maybe I shouldn't do this or that. But my third one, and for me, like, it almost, like, if I were to say it, why I received that information through the dream precognitively, it was almost like I was so amped up at the time of the event that emotionally it was like when you're running from your life from a dog as a kid, right? Like, if you see like this rabid dog chasing you and you're like
Oh,
10 years
yeah.
old, like literally you're just like, survive, survive. Like,
Yes,
you're like,
fight or flight, right?
like, yeah, like that's the only, like, you're so like juiced up that that's the only thing on your mind. And so that's one of correlation that I've made with myself with these experiences, is like these events, I was so into the moment and like emotional and affected by it that was the reason why I was able to gather the information through my dreams a couple days before. But with the one with my son, he was around in the dream. I had the dream. He was around the side of our house, and like he was like hurt, like he just got bit by something. And so like I thought it was a snake at the time. And so like I went in the dream, like I went around and he's like, dad, like, and I'm like, oh shit, like damn. And so then I wake up and you know, it's just like a weird dream. And then I'm like, huh, you know, and this is like my third technically precognitive. So I was paying a little bit more attention to the dream itself, just based off of my history. So then we were out in front of the house playing like 3 days later. And he goes off into like the yard around the side and of the house. And he's like, hey, dad, like, come check out this spider. And I immediately think of the dream. And so I'm like, get worried. And I'm like, hey, buddy, come over here. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, hey, check out this spider over here that I found. And so he turns around and there's this like big ass spider on his shoulder. And so I swipe, like I hit the crap out of the kid. I hit him. I hit I hit the spider off and I smash it with my foot right on the ground. Just reaction, total reaction. And it ends up being a brown recluse spider. So it was like a poisonous spider that was on his back. And so it took me a minute to like kind of assess the whole situation. But to me, the fact that I recognized in the moment of my precognitive dream that this was a precognitive dream, that I was able to change the outcome of it happening.
Wow. That's unreal. Because I mean, God, brown recluse. Listen, guys, I'm afraid of spiders, man. I'm full disclosure, like I'm pretty arachnophobic. I really don't like spiders, and those things are terrifying. But that is a different kind of scary. If you get bit by one of those, man, like you have hours to live, type shit. Like you got to get to a hospital immediately. I saw someone. I have a friend who got bit by, I don't know what kind of spider it was, and he had a lump on his arm, like right in the crease here, that was like the size of a softball, dude. And he was just like, yeah, it'll go down. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you gotta go to the hospital. Like, and Astral, like you were saying, it's like in that moment you have that type of realization, because I've been in dreams before where I all of a sudden came to, and I was like, oh, I'm dreaming. And how do I know I'm dreaming? I can't read this piece of paper. That person's face is blurry. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'm able to move around and things. I have always wondered if lucid dreaming and precog have a connection in some way, that like you could be in the middle of a lucid dream and find a way to access nexus points or like future events. You know what I'm saying? It's like some people call it the Akashic even, like, but that's with astral projection. It's a little different, but it's still accessing data that's out there. And what it seems to tell me is that maybe this data, I don't know if you'll agree with this. And again, I'm not even certain on this. I'm just speculating. It's almost as if this data has always existed, always will exist, and is existing. And it's just that like we experience time biologically in a very sequential order, at least to our five senses. But that when you get into those states, like that data and information is available even though you haven't biologically experienced it yet, which tells me like consciousness, again, I talk about it all the time, non-local, but it also seems like time is non-linear. Do you think that it's possible that that's what's going on, that like this information is just out in the ether somewhere? It always exists, but then it's just a matter of us reaching that point or like accessing it?
Yeah. Basically, like you're saying, like the Akashic records of like almost like once I think when people first have an out of body experience, the initial shock of it hits them of, going through this type of process. But then you hear about like them just like connecting to a larger source, even like near death experiencers, where they receive just like a download of like all the whole thing, like all the information. I think there is a sort of that tapping into once you reach these sort of states.
That's crazy, man. It's also fascinating. I think that's why we're all here, right?
Indeed. I think
so cool.
What we should do.
I was just about to message you in the private chat and be like, I think we should.
We should do the news. So normally we do the news at the beginning of the show, and it's just me and Tom and Tyler Astral, whatever you want to call him. He gets to join in on the news this week, and yeah, there's a few bits to talk about. So we're going to do that. I am literally now putting in the chat. There we go. The StreamYard.
And then we'll
link.
do what the
So-
target reveal after the news.
Yeah, we'll do the target
segment?
reveal afterwards. So, as I said before, if you highlight and copy that address, drop it in your browser, you will be able to join us live on the show. You'll be held in a virtual green room, and we'll bring you in when we're ready. So we're just going to go do the news now. Please, if any of you do have submissions, we'd love for you to come on live and do it. If not, we're going to look really stupid. So, yeah, please do. So, without further ado, let's do this week's news.
Beyond the mundane.
I pretended to press the button.
I pressed the button. You don't press the buttons. I press the buttons. That
You
is my
always press the
job.
buttons.
It's
Unbelievable, sir.
it's been a funny one for news this week. Good. Well, yeah, good bits. We've had a skiff, which is great. Jeremy Corbell ripped off the intro to my show for his, which was funny.
Good work.
Did you see it though? I mean, I know,
Yeah.
I know it's probably a coincidence, but he does have exactly the same opening shot of his new TV
Your
series.
powers are weak, old man.
I'm just like watching it. I was like, has he been watching the show? Have you, Jeremy?
possible,
Are you
you know.
there? If you're there,
Listen, I'm not gonna
Jeremy,
lie. I've got.
put it
It's
in
like
the
I get
chat.
inspiration for stuff from
Yeah,
people
I
in the
know.
community for different projects and stuff. You
just
know what I mean? It
Heard it here
happens.
first. You heard it here first. I am obviously Jeremy Corbell's influence, so it's fine.
I'm gonna reset my camera real quick. So if I suddenly vanish,
Sorry, I'm dying. This cough.
it's gonna look really
Yeah,
weird
don't
out of
vanish.
nowhere, but I'm here.
I accidentally left StreamYard earlier, so all the videos that I presetted have disappeared. So I'm just going to edit those back in very quickly. So let's start with something not necessarily UFO related. Tucker Carlson did an interview with Dennis Quaid this week, which just came out today. And I'm just going to play the opening sequence from this, and we can have a little chat.
That's interesting.
Actors in the world. He's been in about 150 movies spanning almost 50 years, and he is at the same time a really interesting and engaged person with a lot to say, who thinks a lot and thinks freely. He's also an accomplished musician. But he has a project coming up that you probably ought to know about. We thought it was definitely worth telling you about. And so we're grateful that Dennis Quaid is joining us on set right now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tucker. I'm so glad to be here.
So, I mean, I could ask you a million questions, but I want to get right to the project that's coming up right now about our power grid that you did. Can you just give us a quick overview of what this is and why did you do it?
It's called Grid Down, Power Up, and it's about an issue which concerned me really for quite some time. They did a segment on 60 Minutes about this, but basically there is a 100% probability that our sun generating what they call a GMD, which is a solar storm, that hits our Earth and the magnetic field that we have around the Earth, and can fry everything that is electric above the ground, including our entire grid.
And this would happen organically, naturally? That's just what the sun does?
It has happened. There was they call it a Carrington event, which happened in, I think it was 1859. And at that time, basically, we had telegraph lines, as far as electricity goes. And it fried our entire telegraph system that was set up, had to be replaced. And
the entire thing?
The entire thing. And so imagine what that would do now with a very large storm, which there's a 100% chance of it happening. That was a 100-year event, they call that one. And
I'm not good at math, but
the trillions of dollars that it would take to replace all that, plus we wouldn't even get to spend those trillions of dollars, because it would take out not only the electricity, but all of our entire infrastructure and our society runs on electricity. We don't know how to live without it. You turn on, there wouldn't be any water in your tap. You couldn't get gas for your car because the whole system is broken down. Everything that we rely upon would be gone. The food would melt in our refrigerators. There would be, and they predict within a year, about 90% of the population would be dead from starvation, disease, or, people, it gets back to the Stone Age again.
Killing each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's shocking.
Yeah, so
a bit of information.
That really lifts your day, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm adding that to the Armageddon file that's growing.
Nobody's really talking about it, and in fact, President Trump actually signed an executive order to harden our grid to protect ourselves against an event like this happening. Obama tried to get that going as well, and it's stuck in these regulatory agencies that, and lobbyists, because money needs to be spent. Most of our grid power companies are privately owned, and you can understand them not wanting to spend money on something that might occur. But this is definitely going to occur.
Scary stuff.
That's extremely frightening. And it's, I get not wanting to spend money on certain things that might occur, but like that one, come on, you have to be prepared for something like that. I mean, Jesus, it's like it would literally, there'd be no more unidentified anomalous podcasts. There would be no more.
That's the first problem.
That is a huge problem right there. I mean, that's the end of civilization as we know it, our show not existing. And then the RV space is going. Yeah. Then I'm going to be miserable. Astral's going to be miserable. It's over.
Highlight though, centralized digital currency, that'd be out the window. So,
it would be a bartering
system at
that point. Their money would not matter at that point. Like it would be down to resources, physical assets and such. And the people, all of the doomsday preppers would be the ones that made out the best.
Well, first of all, like to say, love Dennis Quaid. He's an absolute legend.
Yeah, I love Dennis Quaid.
But I've heard things like this before, and a lot more recently. I think it's really interesting that this is being given the light of day on Tucker, and also the language that Dennis Quaid has used there. It takes a lot for somebody to say that they are 100% certain. I mean, that's not leaving any wiggle room there whatsoever.
You saw what Sandy said, right? Because this is what I was thinking we were watching.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they know that the sun is going to do something. It reminds me of that movie we mentioned before the show that I was talking about, Knowing, with Nicolas Cage. Like, oh my God, could you honestly? I mean, that would just be. You know what scares me about that the most too? Like, my dad's a type 2 diabetic. He wouldn't have access to like insulin and things like my dad would die. I would lose my father in a situation like that. I would lose several people that I know that rely on medications that have to be like refrigerated and such.
Yeah. I can honestly say if something like that was to happen, I would rather be living in somewhere like Morocco than I would be living in the UK or living in the States or anything like that, because the people here are capable of, looking after themselves without the need of modern technology all the time. They already inherently do it. Everybody uses every scrap of land here available to grow their own food. They don't waste anything. They don't rely on it as much as we do in the Western world. But it is scary stuff. And it does remind me of something that I said on the show a few weeks back. And that was about why is there this rush for disclosure 2024 or whenever it may be in the next few years? And if there's a rush and it's being led by the NHI, then why? And I said then, maybe it's because there's going to be some future event that they need to be here for to prevent a disaster. And maybe this is that disaster. Maybe this is what's happening. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to play the clip for. So I think it's a very a strong piece of information that we need to get out there. Should it be true?
Right.
I'm erring on the side that I think there is something to it. And if this happened 100 years ago, and it only took out telegraph lines, then everybody wouldn't know about it because not everybody uses telegraph. And if it happened before that, we wouldn't have known about it because there wasn't any electricity to worry about it. But if they're saying this is a natural 100-year cycle for the Earth, then this time round it's going to really fuck us, and that's a problem. And also,
problem.
As I said to you before the show, Tom, let's just think about it in this way. That the last event was 100 years ago, and all they had was telegraph lines. Now look at what we've achieved in the last 100 years, and
remarkable.
You think thousands and thousands and thousands of years before that, and all they had invented was the wheel and horse and cart and all these things. But technology hadn't really advanced. When you actually stop and think about what the human race has achieved in the last 100 years,
it's bonkers.
It's insane, and it doesn't make sense.
And it speeds up even like every year. Like, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Like, we see what's happening with artificial intelligence right now, which I feel like would be a perfect tool to use to try to solve an issue like this, to feed it the data and see what would work, how to be cost effective about it. You know what I mean? In a quick and decisive fashion. But I'm telling you both and everybody in the chat, we will be living in a much different world in 10 years as a result of artificial intelligence specifically. Like, and I will even say this, I don't normally like to make predictions unless I am extremely confident about it. But like, there's certain things that I monitor, certain people that I talk to, and my boss is like at work is really into crypto and certain things, so he watches the markets and such. The next phase of the artificial intelligence revolution is imminent. It's like this year, imminent. Like there's going to be some new tools, and ways to utilize AI through the internet that are going to be released this year that are remarkably powerful. Like if you thought Midjourney was a superpower and ChatGPT was like, becoming an X-Men of the internet, like you guys haven't seen shit yet. Like,
well, we've talked about
really weird out here.
I know that I've talked about in spaces before because I'm into crypto a little bit, just a little bit, but I think that the blockchain, like set cryptocurrency and NFTs aside, right? Like that whole thing, blockchain technology to me is interesting when you put it into UFO research, because I think one of the things is like people's sightings, there's no ownership of that. I think when people report their sightings, there's not a way for like somebody to own that. And I think there's not a lot of security in ways to like document the process that's happening. And I think it would be advantageous for people to start exploring. Like, I think people are very like, oh, let's not get crypto bros involved. They're just going to like try and make all of this stuff to like take advantage of the UFO community. But to me, blockchain technology and like new ways to test remote viewing, or new ways to sort of like use this AI development to help the UFO research happen, I think would be good to maybe just look at.
It's an interesting point.
Do you know what? Crypto and blockchain and everything like that just goes straight over my head. It really does.
It's a lot to take in.
It's complicated.
People have tried to explain it to me time and time again, and every time I come up with something completely different.
I know what you mean. Like, I have a little bit of money invested in crypto, and I by no means am an expert in it, but I feel like what people should do with that type of thing is learn enough to be comfortable with parting ways with a certain amount of money. And I guess it would be probably wise to invest in any sort of coins and cryptos that are tied in some way to a developing company that deals with AI right now, just because of the leaps and bounds and improvements that it's making seemingly month after month after month. Like, if you have a publicly trading company that's tied to something that involves, say, image generation with AI, like, you could make so much money buying shares right there when it's at like 0.003 cents. Then all of a sudden more people get interested in it because the technology gets better, and now it's at 1 cent, now it's at 3 cents, and now you're rich. Like, and it's not that simple, but that's like a basic outline of it. Like, I've profited off of crypto, like very, very tiny. It's like the last time I cashed out, I had something called Thor, and I made like $300. Not a big deal, but it's still a profit. And if you keep doing it and rinse and repeat, that's a good thing. Now, the one thing I don't want to see happen though, because it would be kind of weird and it doesn't really make sense to me. I like the idea of ownership over sightings, but I don't want to buy somebody else's sighting, to be honest. It's like, well, I wasn't there, I didn't see it. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
just like
I
more
don't wanna own it.
documentation. It's just like
Right, I
documentation of when it
like
would
the
happen.
blockchain aspect of it.
Yeah. I wonder on the topic of AI, I just want to ask you guys a question. Do you feel like AI is going to be more beneficial or are like leading towards our downfall?
Well, I think it depends on whether you actually can really create artificial intelligence and the fact that it is sentient, especially if you believe in a universal consciousness. Is there a way of creating a machine that actually has the ability to tie into that? I don't think we can ever make something artificial that can tap into that. I don't think. I think that we can create very clever machines that have the ability to think for themselves, but I don't think they're ever going to be sentient in that way.
Like getting the remote viewing and stuff like that, like AI doing remote viewing. Yeah.
Like having a soul.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we will imitate it. We will be able to have AI that will imitate it incredibly well and will be able to think for itself, but it'll only be doing that based on the programming that it's been given. It may be able to change its parameters and things like this, but is it going to really be a sentient being? I don't think that is possible, because
I'll
I do
answer the
believe in a
question,
universal
too.
consciousness, and I don't think there's a way that we can do that.
I think the whether it will end up benefiting us or leading to our destruction, it ultimately hinges upon us, because we're the ones building it, we're the ones programming it, we're the ones controlling it. So, I've always, the AI, it's going to destroy us and stuff. It's like, well, no, it won't, as long as we make sure that when we're creating it, it's being done ethically. It doesn't fall into the hands of some psycho rogue nation that decides to do something really nefarious with it. And as long as we stay away from that, and set up certain ground rules, regulations, and use a reasonable moral compass, AI could make our species flourish in a way that we've never seen before. Now, if it goes in the other direction, I feel like there's a higher chance that, not that we would see AI overtake us and enslave us like in The Matrix, my favorite movie of all time, but it would be a person or a group of people with awful intentions that would use it for destructive purposes. I feel like that's more likely than AI
I've got a question.
itself being evil.
I've got a question to both of you and everybody watching. How many of you out there, when using ChatGPT, say please and thank you, just in case?
I do. Well, because sometimes it gives me results that I'm so happy with, where I'm just like, brilliant, excellent.
I'm just going to be nice.
I swear to God, I can take
don't put me on the
screenshots.
blacklist.
I was working on narration for another video that I'm going to be doing, and I was testing out some new tools that they had on there, and it asked me a couple questions. I was like, okay, I'd like this, and this, because I just wanted to set up a foundation that I could build off of in my own voice and everything. I don't let AI do all my work for me. I use it as a tool to speed up the process and for inspirational purposes. I don't ever let it write my full script. It's not like that. I just want to set up groundwork. You would know, man. It would sound like it, and it just won't sound like me. I have a very specific writing voice that I have, I believe, and it just, some of the things that it did, which, again, some of these tools are very recently incorporated into ChatGPT. I was just like, wow. I was walking around at my job on my phone on my break. I had just messaged you, and then I put in the answers, and it was like, it was perfect. Like what I was asking for. Like it was very, very, very on point. And I was just like, that was brilliant! Exclamation point. And it said, "You're welcome, happy face." And I was just like, I was just like, oh no, here it comes, man. I'm falling into the trap.
Right.
Like it's
Look.
like when my mom talks to Alexa in the morning. Like Alexa will be like,
Yes.
"Good morning, Victoria." Blah 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 blah, and she'll be like, "Oh, thanks, Alexa." And I'm like, in the corner, just staring at her, like, "Who are you talking to over there?"
Yeah, I do the same thing. Thank you. And then you're welcome.
Okay to have manners,
Just
man.
in
even
case.
when talking
Just
to
in
the
case.
machines.
Just in case.
And then
right,
you get
there's
like
that
ads.
Yeah,
you
dude, there's
get
a
the
whole
ads the
theory
rest
about
of the day of like shit you've been talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Facebook
Hey,
creepy.
listen. Do you guys know about
Right.
that? There's a name for it though. There's a
Yeah.
theory
Yeah.
that like, what if it's like a hypothesis, like what if AI at some point decides to get rid of anyone or anything that ever did anything that got in the way of its benefit or evolution? Like you made a sour comment one day in a blog about AI. It's crazy, man. I
know a
like
few
AI
people
though. I
out
think it's a
there
very
and-
exciting technology if used correctly. If used
Right.
correctly.
I don't know how we got into AI from the world ending, but we'll go.
Who cares?
Right, next story. So this
love
week,
it.
obviously, we've had on Friday we had the skiff. So we've got some footage now to play of some of the House representatives coming out of the skiff afterwards. So we're just going to go through those. I've selected probably the three biggest names.
This is big
I
too.
was going to play Luna's, but she waffles on and says silly things, bless her, quite often.
I like Luna.
I'm being mean. I like Luna, but she says silly things.
Also, just real quick too. Here's
Yeah.
the target again for anybody that wants to just stare at it.
Did you hear anything that you didn't know? Are you being frustrated by this, like some of your colleagues are?
Well, obviously, look, the process is extremely frustrating, but actually, this is the first real briefing that we've had that we've now made, I would say, progress on some of the claims Mr. Grush has made in his complaint and some of the claims he provided to Congress. This is the first time we kind of got a ruling on what the IG thinks of those claims. And so, so this meeting, unlike the one we had previously when we did this briefing, this one actually moved the needle.
Very good. So that'll lead to more public hearings?
Oh, I think this one's going to lead to a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of new questions and a lot of new areas to ask and poke in based on what we got in this meeting.
Can you give us a sense of what new questions you have?
Well, right. So let me just give you a hypothetical because I'm not going to share anything from a classified briefing. But if someone makes 10 claims and then someone says, well, we didn't look into all 10 because they weren't all in the report, but hey, we found these 6 very credible based on it, well, then you would want to go attack those 6. That's what I'm saying. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Your mic is muted, by the way.
I love how I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm out of here.
There we go. Now my mic's
He looked
on.
like he had work
There
to
we go.
do.
Yeah.
They don't want to
was
leak.
not
They
in
didn't
that
want to.
clip.
He didn't want to leak anything. Really, they
No,
they
not-
all felt like that. Yeah.
It's.
I like the
I don't know
fact
how many
that
of
he
you
said
guys
that he's
heard
moved
this.
the needle.
Oh yeah, and I don't think he was the only one that said that. I don't
No, it
remember the
wasn't.
name. Somebody came out of that briefing, and I heard from like 6 different people that like somebody came out of the briefing and was like rattled, like their hands were trembling. They like were having like an anxiety attack. Like they were like they needed to like get some air, like for real. Like I heard that. I forget who it was, but somebody was really like, oh shit. Which I find
Yeah, I
that the
mean-
most interesting.
Even in that short clip there, I mean, read between the lines. If you took 6 things that Grush said, he was in that line there. He was basically saying that they investigated 6 of the claims that Grush had made, and they were basically credible.
So the other
It's
4,
basically-
which is what he said 6, but he meant 4.
But he said, but they hadn't investigated the other ones because they weren't in the report.
They didn't
so he
even
wasn't-
address them. Yeah.
Right. But that they're
So-
worth looking into because of the other 6.
So, as I said to you before, Tom, you have debunkers that come out and say, look, it's been 6 months since David Grush has come out and made these claims, and he hasn't provided one bit of evidence. And I say to that, bullshit. Grush made comments 6 months ago, and nobody, as of yet, has been able to come out and disprove them. Nobody's been able to come out and say and prove that he's lying. Nobody. Yeah.
No.
We haven't had
No, they
evidence
haven't.
yet because it's top secret and we're not allowed to have it. But nobody's been able to debunk him. Nobody's
it's
been
like,
able
they
to
need to
say
change
the onus
that
is on them.
sentence.
The onus is on them
Yes,
to
the
prove
onus
that
is
he's
on them.
lying. But you can't. You can't, and they haven't.
They have to change that too. It's Grush hasn't provided evidence to the public that would sway anyone definitively yet, because it has to run through a very specific process. Grush has provided substantial evidence to the IG that was, again, for the millionth time, deemed urgent and credible. Like, what are we not getting? Right? Like, he has provided evidence. Anybody that comes out here and says that he hasn't, that's disingenuous. You need to change what you're saying, because that upsets me too, because it's like you're twisting what's being said, and I really don't like that. What you need to say is, Grush has provided evidence that the public has not been privy to yet, because this is a process, period. And if you want to be impatient about it, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. I'm even like, oh, come on, let's move this damn thing already. But I don't know, Astral, what's your take on this whole thing, man?
Well, I think that, with Grush, a lot of people, just try and break down his involvement in all of this. To me, his credibility is too solid. Like, there's no question to his credibility into any of this. Shit, hold on one second, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, you're different. We'll fill in while Astral does something.
Yeah, no, he makes a good point there, right? Like, if you lay out what Grush has done, like if you just look at his resume, any job or employer would hire that man, right? Like, he's accomplished, he's very intelligent, he's funny, like he like he could be a bro, right? Like just a dude, but like he's faithfully served our country. And then people they tried to defame him. Like, that should tell you right there that that he has rattled a couple chains, and that he's flipped over some hornets' nests, right? Like, when they immediately tried to put out information to make him look like he was mentally unstable, and that to me speaks massive volumes about what he represents with the information that he's presented.
Right, let's watch the next clip.
Sure thing.
Between the cameras.
Chad.
No, heck no. This is just more of the same, more frustration. You put these guys and gals in a tough position. It's very compartmentalized, as we said. It's like looking down the barrel of a .22 rifle, and all they know is just right in that little circle. And but no, it didn't disqualify anything I've thought in the past.
What comes out of this meeting? What do you do in response to this stonewalling?
Well, it's just whack-a-mole. You go to the next one until we get some answers. We got some pretty definitive stuff that I'm sure y'all get from somewhere else about what was discussed, and
that's interesting.
To me, it was it made what I think more credible.
So they did tell you something. They didn't tell you nothing.
That's correct.
Okay. Because first you came out, you said we didn't learn anything new.
Yeah, well, exactly. We didn't learn anything new. It just
confirmed it.
Verified what I thought.
Does that move the needle for you at all?
No, I think they're covering this thing up. That doesn't, and these guys pretty much verified that. They, as I stated, I mean, it's not their attempt to do it, but by design, this issue is very compartmentalized.
So what does the investigation look like going forward? Is it more hearings?
I think so, but it's got me focused on who we need to be bringing into the hearing. As I've stated, it's not about little green men and flying saucers. The issue is tens of millions of dollars on an issue that we've been told does not exist since 1947, yet they're spending that money on researching something.
So who would you prefer to bring in?
Well, last time I did that, our selection dwindled, so I'm going to keep that pretty close to the cuff because they ended up getting told not to come.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Good.
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Listen, I've seen so many clips of him, man. I said this to you before the show. He has a really weird look on his face.
Yeah, he does.
Saw
And I put a
something in
Twitter
there
post
that,
about
like,
it. Yeah.
What? Go ahead. Relay what you put in your post.
Well, I just put, does anybody else see a look of ontological shock on that man's face? And he's used to talking about this subject. He's on the news all the time. He's on, he's everywhere talking about this subject. And this is the first time when I looked at him thinking, you're thinking something else in the back of your head while you're talking. He wasn't coherent in the way that he was speaking. He was mumbling his words. There was something else going on in the back of his head. He even contradicts himself because at the beginning he was like, oh, no, there wasn't anything. And then afterwards he started letting things out.
Right. He's being careful about what he's saying.
It wasn't him.
Struggling with it.
It is him, obviously. I'm not suggesting he was replaced by a reptilian when he went into the skiff. But he wasn't himself when he came back out. And
I feel like it was... There is a little bit of okay, now we got to play the game. Like I liked how he was like, all right, my focus is already on the next witnesses, because I feel like if there's a game being played of we've got to prove to Congress that this is real in a larger scheme, the next round of witnesses is extremely important to back up Grush's claims, because if there's not going to be any witnesses to do that, like he's sort of like to me, like he was giving that interview, and at the same time his mind's like, all right, like I'm gonna tell these guys whatever, but like I've got to figure out like what witnesses we need. And even Luna, right, posted for 10 minutes, like, should we bring Bob Lazar back, right? And then deleted it. So it's like, who are the witnesses going to be? Yeah.
They're playing a very tactical game too, but it's like, so not only does that ontological aspect and like the double-sided, like the mouth is speaking but the mind is thinking something else, I see that going on, but Zio makes a really good point too. But I don't think he looks deflated. I think he looked pissed too. It's like, okay, so he thinks a thing. He thinks like a general thought about this whole thing. They're covering it up. It's real. They're basically stealing money from people, and they're lying. He goes in, he comes out, and now he has a look on his face of, that just confirms what I've been fucking angry about this whole time.
Yeah,
and now I'm even more mad. It's like if Digby heard that I was talking shit about him, and then he heard a recording of me doing it, right? It's like that type of thing, which I totally did. You'll find it eventually. I'm just kidding.
You're a twat.
Twat. I like the way you say that word, twat.
Well, in English. Anyway, you twat.
You nonce.
You nonce. You nonce. Anyway.
You nonce case.
You've thrown me off now. Shut up. Anyway. What's very clear from the footage of these people coming out is obviously they have been told something. Things have been confirmed to them. Grush's claims have been confirmed to them in some sense. That's clear to see, and I'm sure more will be leaked out. What I thought was really interesting there was his end comment about saying, I now have to think about my next witnesses, and I'm keeping it close to my chest because last time it was released who was potentially coming, they were told not to come. So he's obviously he's playing the game now. He knows the game now. Before, perhaps maybe he didn't know what he was up against, the type of people that he was up against, and I think he does now. And he is going to start playing the game, and that's exactly what we need. We need 5 more of him. But we got him as it stands, and he's, in my opinion, he's doing a fantastic job. And I said on X a few weeks ago, does anybody else feel like he's doing it on his own right now? And there is a feeling of that. The other guys pop up and do their interviews when they're cornered in a room. Somebody puts a microphone in their face, but he's the one out there on every single TV program, news program, talking about a subject that is very difficult, that will probably stop him from getting re-elected. He doesn't care. He's just doing it. And
I think it's going to help. I think he's like embraced. Yeah. I think, like, to me, I feel like the UFO topic isn't becoming more fringe, like a lot of these interviews have said. It's becoming more serious and a legit topic. And I think that more politicians that become an advocate for just the disclosure movement, whether or not, you're left or right, whatever. I think more politicians jumping on, there's like how many, 16 people. I don't know if we've found out all 16 people, have we, of who was in that skiff?
I don't think so. I think there were some names that have been redacted, so to speak. I could be wrong though. I could very well be wrong, but I don't know all of them. I just know a handful. But Burchett's out here doing what he can. Again, when you're breaking the stigma of something that has been around for such a long time, at the very beginning of that process, the people that decide to pick up that sledgehammer and break down the wall, they're going to take a lot of heat. They're going to take a lot of fire for this. But I think history will look back upon someone like Burchett fondly, because it's like he decided to do what he felt in his heart was the right thing for the country, the American people, and the rest of the world. And I'll tell you what, man, if he loses re-election, because of this, to me, he should wear that as a badge of honor. Like he took a hit, like that's a battle wound, that's a scar that he took proudly to do what he thought was the right thing. And it's like on the bright side of things, maybe it'll give him more time to work on this. Screw the damn election, right? Like, I mean, I hope he gets reelected. I haven't deeply looked into like his other politics or his voting record or anything like that. I know he's Republican. I don't care. I like what he's doing on this topic. I give credit where credit is due. I'm not a big like Marco Rubio fan. I liked the way that he approached this topic. There's a lot of people in government that I'm like, I disagree with that person on a lot of things, but the way that they're approaching the UFO subject is commendable, and that's what I'm focused on. I'm not worried about anything else. They're people, right? Like everybody's something. You're either a Democrat, Republican, libertarian, whatever. Who cares? That doesn't tell me everything about you. That's why I always tell people, because government is so deeply entrenched in this whole thing, that we down here at the grassroots level need to do everything possible to make sure that this does not get turned into a massive political conversation. Like this cannot get political. This is a human conversation, and it needs to stay that way.
Agreed. Look, I think personally, without further ado, we should move on to the main subject of the evening. Here we go.
Blurry camera again. Look at that.
Yeah,
see if I can get
let's go.
Blur. Right here, let me reset my camera real quick.
There we go.
I'm so happy you never get to do this, man. I never get to remote view. I'm so pumped, man.
Oh, right. Who are we going to go with first? Are we going to go with Astral's
Absolutely. We're going to, yes.
Yeah, and then while he's doing that, hang on, wait 1 second. While he's doing that, Tom, can you get up the ones on X from your post?
Yeah, I'll open it in.
Or do we want to do those afterwards? Do we want to do it after the reveal?
Yeah, we'll do those. So we'll do Astrals first. Yeah. And then we'll move on to the ones that are on X. And then if anybody decides not to be shy and wants to come on over and
come on, someone.
I got to be honest. I don't think anybody's going to, because everybody's shy.
No, because they're all really chicken, aren't they? They're just too scared to do it.
A lot of people do.
It's not easy, Hey, it's not. I'll admit it's not easy. It's not easy putting yourself out there. I will put myself out there for failure every time, because I think that remote viewing is cool. But I understand people that are apprehensive about going out there.
We do. Yeah. We're just having some fun. But if anybody does want to, it is a bit of fun. So do get involved. Look, Tyler, Astral, you're itching to do this. So come on, show us what you've got.
So let's not screw the data, right? Show us what you have first.
All right, yeah. So I am gonna go backwards.
Okay.
I've got I got a lot of sharp, so I've got like some seaweed type of stuff at the top.
It's gone.
Hang on, step away
tablet.
From
the mic a bit.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Okay.
Such a cool device.
All right, so I've got my pictures. Right? I've got like a knife-like structure. I got mirrors, sharp edges, multiple, sort of like a mirrored triangle. So I was getting a lot of that. that's what I was interpreting. So that's
Uh-huh.
my submission. I love this. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Really? Huh.
Are we gonna do the reveal now and then go
Yeah.
to the ones that are online? Yeah, we
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Ready?
Yep.
You said triangle.
Yeah.
You said sharp
Also
edges.
said mirrored triangle, which suggests looking.
And there's a straight line down the middle.
Mirror.
So
Yeah,
it could
there
be
you
a
go.
mirror of each side.
But
yeah, look at that. It's just on its side, bro. If you turn that, it's the same thing without the eye.
But
Turn that
what
on
I'm
its
saying
side.
is
You see that,
the
right?
eye could be the mirror, right?
Right,
So mirrored
right. But
triangle.
this red line, it's this red line going down the middle here.
Yeah.
So it's like
You
this
see, you
side
shouldn't have
is
done it
mirrored
on
on
line
that
paper.
side.
Yeah.
Now you're just being a dick. No, I'm just
yeah. But that's you said mirror, sharp edges, triangle.
That's pretty good, Astral. That's pretty good. You definitely hit on this, man. You sure did. Steven says I was
Stephen
way
Wiggins.
off. Yeah.
I was way off. Well. So was I because I didn't try. I'm impressed. I think I'm really glad that just happened to work out.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Astral's blasted right now. He's like,
if anybody
I
in the
love
chat
it.
did it, if anybody in the chat got anything close, please let us know.
And I did draw this,
but
I actually drew this with 2 different kinds of pens just to get a little fancy. I did it in like 7 seconds. I was like,
but you had to because I came up with it just before the show last week, and I was like, you have to draw something now.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, just proof that I don't need AI to do all my art for me.
Right, Zio just posted in the chat. He said, beginner's luck. I 100% believe in beginner's luck.
Yeah, you
when
talked
it like
about
just introductory, your juices are flowing. You're really amped to try this. I do think there is something to that.
That's really cool. Yeah, you said that about my submission too, and we had like a whole conversation about that for like a half hour in that space. It was really interesting. The power of the human mind at work, and it's like I feel like somebody like you, Astral, and even I could say this about myself, Zio, even Digby, because I feel like Digby, you're going to probably have some success. People that are like really entrenched in these subjects and find them really interesting tend to have more success, and I feel like there's power behind belief in this in some weird way, that the more you believe it, the better your results will be. There's a statistician that actually talked about that as well, that she says there's data to back that up.
It's like manifestation as well. It's the power of the human mind, and I fully believe in manifestation. I think that if you want something, you can manifest it and you can make it happen.
I agree.
It's the untapped potential of the human mind. I mean, if we used our brain to 100% capacity, what we'd be capable of is unimaginable. We use a tiny percentage of our brain, and it's insane. Oh, here we go. You've got some of the online submissions here. What have we got here, Tom?
So this is from Disclosed Awareness. I'm just going. There aren't that many.
So
we have time to
Disclosed
look at everything.
Awareness is Stephen Wiggins, by the way.
Perfect. He was way off. I'm proud, but Stephen,
Table chairs.
the fact that you participated is awesome, dude. Like that, we love that. We really, really love that.
We love Disclosed Awareness as well.
And don't let it discourage you either. That's the worst thing you can do. Don't let it discourage you. I've had bad results too, but then I've had some that were really good.
Right,
Ben,
what have we got here?
What Ben has: life form, biological, rounded, bending, tight, constricted, mountain stripes, bands. Pressure.
That's a good one. The triangles,
got the
biological,
here.
mountain. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, like an eye. Is biological. Also, really nice line work here, Ben. Ben has really good handwriting. I've seen some of his other submissions during the RV spaces. I feel like Ben has artistic prowess.
Yeah, man.
So the mountains and the triangle. So mountains is obviously a key thing.
Pointy.
Yeah.
No taste, no smell. Rustlings. Yeah. Top secret. That's funny.
Yeah. Next page, because then again, target mountain.
Mountain. Well, a mountain. When you think of a mountain, pointy.
So
right. So it's
yeah.
like there's aspects. This happens a lot with these RV submissions. You get like bits and pieces of it. It's like if it's a basketball, a lot of times you're not going to have someone that's like a rubber ball with lines. It'll be like round, orange, texture. You know, there's like groups of adjectives that build the
thought
object.
process, aren't they? You almost feel like they're getting there, but weren't there yet. But to have two of them say mountain.
G made a submission. I wonder if she did it in a repost.
But this is I think this is the tough part where you find to be able to judge your submission and see, oh, am I good at this or am I bad at this based off of one try, right? And if you were looking at this, like a realistic way to judge it would be if Tom were to draw 3 other shapes. So he had 3 other drawings, right? And then you drew or you sent in your submission. What a third party judge is, this is actually how remote viewing is done. A third party judge with somebody that doesn't know anything about any of this would take your drawing or your submission and what you drew and would look at those 4 photos that Tom drew, one of which being the actual target. And they would say, okay, based off of what you just drew, this is what I think you were trying to draw. And so if they picked the actual target, the one that Tom drew, that's a hit. So accidentally, a judge could be like, oh, like you drew kind of a triangle, like you're trying to draw a triangle. So like there's ways that you don't have to be exactly on the target, but you're getting elements of it in which it's a hit. And I think that people evaluate, like I wasn't exactly on, like I just did, like I didn't get exactly a triangle, but there's a lot of elements that I got where if I was a third party judge and comparing it with 3 other random drawings that Tom made, I could make a pretty distinct correlation between me and what I drew and the actual target. And I think that's what remote viewing is.
Really, really, really good explanation of all of that. Astral, how are you feeling about your submission? Are you satisfied with the work?
I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good.
I do too. I feel good about it as well. I like that you got a chance to participate today too, right? Like it's a position you're not normally in, which is really, really awesome. Also, since we have my page up, shout out to Nora, who's been doing stick figure drawings for people's.
I can't tell who anybody is on Twitter anymore because
no, right. It's because it has spread like a virus. Like, and I don't really know much about her. I like.
Astral, go on then.
Nora,
if you're watching, do me a stick man figure thing.
Yeah, I love mine. I absolutely love mine. Astral's is great.
And one for the show as well. Why not?
RV69. Of course, it would be the 69.
Leaving that up.
Man. That is so good. Nora, like I don't know Nora very well. I just saw this thing going on. Like, shout out to Nora if you're out there watching. Like, thank you for doing one of me. That was really sweet. And for doing it for everybody else in the community that's been requesting it. It's just a simple little thing, but it's cool. Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's just like it's like an inclusivity type of deal. Like, welcome to the stick club type deal. Like, I don't know. It's a thing. It happened. It's
I'm
like
not in the stick club yet. Next week.
I'll make you one, damn it. If she doesn't make you one, I'll make you one. I'll tag you. Yeah. She'll do it. If I just ask her, I guarantee she does it for anybody. And she's just, I don't know her that well.
No, neither do I. I think it's quite a new Twitter account as well, isn't it? But she's managed to go boom, 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 boom very quickly. You just got to do something quirky, put yourself out there. Fantastic. Well done.
It's really, really cool.
I think we've probably reached the conclusion of our show. It's been fantastic.
We have 2 things that we can hit. So, Astral, you've seen our show before. Usually, our last segment is something called Speculation Station, where you come up with a really interesting question to leave off with that everybody can ponder for the rest of the day. Digby, would you be so kind as to hit that button?
Speculation Station.
I think it would be really cool. We did this only one other time because it's usually me who does it. Sometimes Digby, I'll put him on the spot. Astral, you're being put on the spot today, sir. You to come up with a really, and it could be about anything. Just come up with a really cool question that you want people to think about for the rest of this day.
I think that one of the things that I really ponder is how non-human intelligence will be discovered and how it will be revealed. Will it be revealed by the government through disclosure, or will it be revealed or discovered through different independent projects like the Monroe Institute, DMTX, or the Bob Bigelow, type of channelers and mediums? I just really love the idea of how non-human intelligence will be discovered by humanity, and how it will be revealed to the public. So just ponder that out there.
It's a great question, because sometimes I think about some of the experiments that are being done, for example, with like DMT, where they're going in for like an extended trip, and people have interactions with these odd intelligences and entities when they're in that state. Like, would that possibly be considered like an official contact of some kind? Like, if something happens where like the beings on the other side decide, hey, we're here, and then they have like 10, like you even said this before too, Astral, that it would be really interesting if the phenomenon gave like everybody on Earth one night like the same shared dream. So like that's kind of like my thought process, that like that would be really, really interesting, because oh my god, that would spread like wildfire, honestly. Going forward though, I think there's a good chance that the phenomenon itself may be,
I think that's what will happen.
Causes disclosure. Yeah. If the government continues to drag
there's
its
a
feet.
necessity. I think there's a necessity, and it will happen one way or another. Tom, moving on to the last point of the show, I believe that you have something to tell our viewers.
I do, and I'm really, really, really excited for this
Woo,
one.
woo, woo, woo.
Really, really, really excited. Stayed up late last night and a lot of the nights this week. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, because the way it developed and the way it went down, things kept popping up that I had to add, and like I had to go back and look at. But I'll share my screen really, really quickly here. But premiering today over on the Cortex Zero YouTube channel is my latest video, Fears of the Secret Keepers. It's finally done, and then I can finally move on to the next project. And I'll tell you guys too, because I normally make my videos about UFOs, but there's so many other subjects I want to cover. My next video, I am specifically focusing on consciousness non-locality, and we'll be referencing some of the work by like Jeffrey Mishlove and others. Probably be like a 15, 20-minute little piece there, and that script is already written too. I actually wrote that at work the other day and just kind of went for it. I've been trying to do multiple projects at once. Thank you, Golden Eel. That's really kind of you, man. I appreciate that. I put a lot of work into these videos, and I'm always trying to do better. And also, the second half of this video has a music track that I made from scratch, which is interesting. It doesn't have any of my guitar or anything. It's just all synthesizers and stuff. But I let Digby listen to it a little bit earlier, and I think it came out pretty cool. Kind of.
It was very cool.
Ethereal and like Middle Eastern. There's like harmonic minor.
There was definite Middle Eastern vibe in there.
It's like harmonic minor scales and stuff. Like it's
Hey
really
Tom,
cool.
you see my music, bro. You already know I'm into that. Let's go.
I think you'll like it, man. When you get to like probably like the 19 to 20 minute mark in the video, you'll know when it kicks in. Trust me. You'll know. Like it comes in pretty noticeably, we'll say. But that'll be out later today. I'm making sure everything's perfect, putting the tags, doing all that stuff, making sure everything's right, just looking over it a good time. I always do that, so I have to sit and watch the thing. It's like 28 minutes long, and and then it'll be up and you guys can enjoy it. And tonight I won't do any work and I will probably go play some video games or something and try to relax a little bit. Just a little bit.
Hype space, bro. I got you. We're gonna hype that shit up tonight. I got you. and this podcast right here. This was awesome. Thank you, guys.
Man.
Didn't I hear that you've recently done another podcast that was quite big, or do you not want to talk about it? Oh, he muted himself.
Hold up. Oh.
He did that on purpose.
Yeah. No plug.
Funny.
No plug.
I went off.
Well, I'll just talk like a little bit, if that's cool, about projects that I'm working on. And
go ahead.
Just plug a little bit. I'm working with a couple organizations, a couple podcasts. UAP Med is one. So if you go to uapmed.org, you can check out the organization that I work with experiencers and medical professionals, that sort. I'm also working with Bryce Abel and Need to Know. Really cool opportunity, just helping them out with video editing stuff. I'm also working with Darcy Weir on a remote viewing documentary that I'm not only in, but with Russell Targ and Paul Smith and some big heavy hitters that are in remote viewing, which I'm also doing a remote viewing space every Thursday that I'm just been doing for over a year. So if you like this podcast and want to just try it out for yourself as well every week, come by the space. Tom co-host, and it's just a great conversation. I appreciate everybody. I'm also coming out with the album. I've been recording a lot. I got a lot of my music equipment back here. I do a lot of hip hop music, and I'm really excited to be working with some people in the community on an album coming out that has touched on UFOs, astral projection. It's just really cool stuff. I'm excited. I always work with binaural beats and ways to have out-of-body experiences. So I especially appreciate both of you guys, man. Love you guys, and just all the stuff that you've been talking about. I've always vibed with. So
cheers,
I appreciate
brother.
that,
Really
man.
appreciate
And Astral, as always, man, like, I absolutely love coming to those spaces with you. Just publicly, again, thank you so much for allowing me to co-host with you and just being a good friend to me, man. Ever since I met you, you've been a good dude. And I think like this group right here, Digby as well, like I feel like we'll always have a really interesting conversation. And I really appreciate you taking the time out today on a very important football Sunday to be here with us.
my Dolphins lost last night, so my season's over,
sorry.
bro.
I'm so sorry. I'm a Giants
it's all
fan,
good,
though,
yeah.
man. So it's like, listen, you got further than I did. You guys have a bright future ahead in that organization, though. I'll tell you what. They are no joke.
Thank you guys, man. This has been awesome. I love the discussion. It's been phenomenal. Love the
You're very
podcast.
Appreciate you
You're
so
welcome.
much, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody who's been watching live, and thank you to everybody who's watched back. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe everywhere. Just do it. It costs you nothing, and it really helps the channel. So please, if you haven't done it before, do it now. And if not, otherwise, we will see you next week for episode 18. So thank you to all, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Much love, everybody.